Welcome into the Ballpark Digest Broadcaster Chat. This will be our very last chat for the 2020 calendar year. No Mick Gillispie, he'll rejoin us. We'll see if there's any hot stove talk. And when we say Broadcaster Chat, in general, Kevin Reichard, it's because you've got broadcasters joining you. I'm Jesse Goldberg-Strassler with the Lansing Lugnuts, the Gillispie Tennessee Smokies. But we take a step back from the broadcaster side of that. And let's go into the Ballpark Digest Chat, because there are major things to speak about when it comes to minor league baseball's reorganization with the agreement with Major League Baseball.
Yeah, we brought up kind of a big story yesterday on the status of negotiations, where things stand, what leagues will benefit, what leagues won't, what farm systems will, which ones won't, which leagues are going away, which teams may be going away, and it made a splash. So it was fun to do. We also covered a whole bunch of other stuff. So if you're not familiar with what we posted yesterday, head to the site. Lots of new information on where things stand and where things will end up, by the end of the year and beyond.
Is there any of that information that you wrote up, or information that you did not fit into that piece, that we should take a little bit longer to actually dive into?
Yeah, and there's a few things that didn't make the cut because of length. And as a broadcaster, some of this will affect you, such as changes to travel schedules, which we didn't cover at all. Didn't want to make 1,000 words into 1,200. But basically, Major League Baseball is also asking that travel be overhauled for less wear and tear on players, which actually makes sense. One of them, instead of one bus, it'll be two. And I don't know how they'll apportion that. One will be one bus has to be one of the high-end coaches, and then they're also asking for changes in when teams are allowed to leave. So no more Thursday night games. There's a 4 p.m. cutoff for Thursdays for travel, which could lead to the end of Thirsty Thursday. As a minor league
day drinking,
they may be messing with the wrong people and trying. I don't think they're trying to kill Thirsty Thursday, but that's sort of the effect. Is if the team bus has to be on the road by 4, there's not going to be a big demand for folks hitting the concession stands at 1 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. And Thirsty Thursday is a major promo. Teams love it, fans love it, the concessionaires love it, and the pouring rights partners love it. So that's kind of a big thing. I've heard that the Major League people were a little bit surprised because they don't do Thirsty Thursdays by and large. And so when they were told, wait a second, there was a little stunned response.
Same thing with school days, right? That if teams want to play those 10:35 a.m. games, major league teams have to say, wait, we need to give you the okay first.
Yes. And those games are immensely popular. They don't make a ton of money necessarily for the teams. No booze for starters.
Great retail, great concessions.
Great concessions if you're selling Swizzlers and candy and popcorn and that sort of thing.
The Dippin' Dots line's very long.
Yes, and I've been to some of those 10:30 a.m. School days, because it's actually a great time to shoot a baseball game because the sun is great and the light is great. And I went to one in Greensboro like several years ago, and on the one hand, boy, the berm was packed, seats were fairly full, kids were running around having a great time. The beer berm was conversely not very crowded, so that would have been a good day to go have a few of the local brew that sponsors the Grasshoppers. Head out there and watch the game.
The thing that we always appreciated about them in Lansing is, first, getting our mascot into the schools to promote them in the first place. And then once the kids are out at the ballpark, then you never know if they can come back because they've had that experience. So now over the course of the summer, hey, this is something that they'd want to come back to. So really raising the identity of the team within the community. But
Yeah,
it's fascinating to me, you just talking about what major league teams didn't understand about what was good for minor league baseball.
exactly. I mean, those school outings are not on any major league radar, officials' radar. And so they don't realize how special they are. And let's figure, there probably was a crowd of 5,000 at the Grasshoppers game. If a tenth of those kids return for 4 games a season and bring their parents, that's an impact on the bottom line right there.
The other thing that you mentioned in terms of Thursday and the cutoff day, in minor league baseball, I'm so used to you're not sure which day is going to be your getaway day because some days it's a 3-game series, it's a 4-game series. It's highly irregular. You can end a series on a Friday. You can end a series really on any day of the week. You could end a series on a Saturday and then Sunday start up a new series. So you can't play a Sunday early game because you've just arrived into town. So a lot of different things that it sounds like major league teams are looking at and saying, what's best for the players when it comes to travel arrangements and the best times to start games, whether you're leaving town or arriving into town.
Right, and that's one of the changes in the proposed calendar setup. Will be more days off, fewer 4-game series, and a schedule that looks a lot more like a major league schedule.
Is there any concern with the increased travel, with the 2 buses, the sleepers, the plane flights perhaps? Minor league teams did not have a baseball season this year. Minor league teams do not have, it seems to me, my guess is, that much money in the bank account, per se. And here come all of these travel expenses. How are we, I just keep on coming back to how financially are we looking for minor league baseball teams individually next year?
Right, and I think the schedule is a large chunk of that could be traded out for advertising, but if you're giving up billboard advertising on the outfield wall for trading for travel expenses, that's still a loss of cash, basically. And so there really aren't very good answers for any of this stuff. Some of this I actually kind of agree with in terms of wear and tear on players, more days off, which I think owners want too. I'm not entirely sure that is very controversial. Thirsty Thursday I got more phone calls yesterday about Thirsty Thursday than anything else.
Have you been hearing more about this article than a lot of the articles that you've been writing recently, or has this all been about the same with anything that you're writing, anything that you're hearing about the negotiations? There's a ton of folks checking in with you.
Well, generally, people will respond either from the minor league world or the major league world, and typically not people from both worlds will respond. With this article, it was from both sides of the aisle. Mostly a lot of frustration, a lot of complaints that the negotiations are being held in secrecy and that neither side, including the major league people, are really being told about what's going on a daily basis in terms of what's being presented. And there have been a whole lot of interesting ideas being presented and I didn't put this in the article, although I think we've talked about it, where there was a plan, a proposal to have the Pioneer League survive using basically loaner players. They wouldn't be full affiliates, but teams could send prospects to the Pioneer League. Well, the same proposal was made for the NY-Penn League too, that it could survive as a sanctioned league, although not necessarily an affiliated league, giving those smaller markets a chance to survive. And they could claim, we've got major league players under contract. But that was killed off by the hardliners in Major League Baseball who want to see a very hard cap on player signings.
With the current reorganization, and you list in this article about the new affiliation changes as they're proposed, that the California League would go down to low A, the Florida State League would go down to low A to join the South Atlantic League, and up in high A, Midwest League rises up, Northwest League rises up, a brand new Mid-Atlantic League is formed, the Carolina League. Every time I feel like I speak with you week after week, I go, what's changed? And so much changes. So here's where we currently stand.
Yeah, like you said, we have flipping around of leagues from high A to low A and vice versa, mainly make the numbers work, not because of travel concerns, not because of financial concerns. You have the Northwest League, which is short season now. Then it was talked about as low A, and now it's going to be high A because the numbers work that way as a slimmed down league. Similarly, the Cal League doesn't work as a high A league and will be shifted down to low A along with the Florida State League. This new Mid-Atlantic League, no one seems to know exactly who's going to be in that league versus the Carolina League. And you may see teams move from the Sally League to the Carolina League. There's talk that the Carolina League will be truly a Carolina League. All teams in North and South Carolina to come down and travel. So what was posted is not the entirety of what's being looked at right now. I just didn't want to get into the speculative nature of teams moving classifications. That's not fair to the teams. That's not fair to anyone because there's no final decisions being made.
Well, the big thing, though, is that we're beyond the World Series. So the World Series is over. So now we can really start seeing things hammered into place.
Yes. And part of that is with the spring training, too. We discussed last week a split spring training. Part of what happened, the ramification of that will be, and this seems to be consensus that this is going to happen, is that the minor league season won't be beginning until the beginning of May at the earliest. And partly because not every operator loves an April date, but also mostly because the plan is to have the minor leaguers train at the major league facilities separately, as opposed to herding everyone into the complex. And there are some complexes where everyone's together. You look at Camelback Ranch, one team has separate minor and major league clubhouses and facilities. The other one doesn't. And it's a big issue for teams. So in terms of preventing COVID, keeping those, working in two shifts seems to be a really logical way to go.
Climate strikes me as such a funny thing. You hear when it comes to people talking about minimum wage, well, the cost of living is different from city to city. Okay, so I've worked in Montgomery, Alabama. I currently work in Lansing, Michigan. And in Montgomery, Alabama, it's not fun to play baseball in late June, July, early August. In Lansing, Michigan, it's not fun to play baseball in April. So you'd rather be playing baseball in Montgomery in April and May, and in Lansing you're going, oh, wait, I know that June is going to be better, and I know that September is going to be really good.
Yeah, it's a whole sort of motley set of expectations and desires in terms of when seasons start and end. You're right, the South, April's a great time to be playing. Florida State League, that's when you want to be watching action there. And similarly, the Southern and even Texas leagues. Cal League, you could be there anytime. One issue with the South, also besides the heat, is that come August, you're starting to compete with high school football. And that's why, indie leagues, especially the American Association, have a shortened season because their Texas and Southern teams didn't want to compete with high school football. So you've got a wide range of factors here on who wants the season when. I think generally major league teams like a May opening versus April. It's probably a little healthier to have a player play in the heat rather than the cold.
The central thing, though, for minor league baseball teams is just looking for any kind of clarity. And I assume Major League Baseball teams, the ones who are not privy to the inner workings of the negotiations, they're looking for clarity too. So are you still saying Thanksgiving is when that clarity is going to come?
I think it's going to be after Thanksgiving. I think we're looking at a drawn-out timeline where it's the end of the year where teams get schedules and operating details, which is sort of sad. There's a reason why major league schedules were released a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, is that teams could plan to have fans in the stands this year. With no schedules, it's hard for minor league teams to plan. They can't. Season tickets are not a big deal this year, I don't think, in terms of offering them or not. But what hurts them is on the promo front for vendors and sponsors, because you can't sell superstars as a big time promotion because you don't know if you're going to be in town on a given weekend. And then there's a cascading effect to that too, because, well, if we don't know if the ballpark's going to be open, we can't schedule another event. Teams are saying they've turned away events like weddings and gatherings and such because they don't know whether the ballpark's going to be open or not because they have no schedule. So the sales forces are going nuts, schedulers are going nuts, and the event staffs are going nuts because there's no dates.
Can't even imagine how the superstars are feeling after this summer and looking ahead to next year and how their calendar is and all those other traveling acts. There's another kind of sadness, though, that's out there, and that is with every passing week and every passing month, we're continuing to see more job loss from specific minor league baseball teams and from the minor league baseball office.
Yeah, there were layoffs last week. More are expected in coming weeks. I'm still trying to figure out, along with many like you in the industry, to what extent the layoffs happened. I know for a fact the event staff was laid off after the winter meetings were turned into a virtual effect. And then I heard yesterday about a few other people that I did not know were laid off were actually laid off. So that's a lot of brain drain. The people that are being laid off, they're smart people. They know minor league baseball. They know their sport. They love it. They love the people. And institutionally, this deconstruction of minor league baseball is really a mean thing on the part of Major League Baseball. And that's the only way to describe it. It's just mean.
I like your description of brain drain because it connects it in my mind to, there's the accusation that's been going on for years that the very best athletes in the country have been choosing sports other than baseball, whether they've been going to football, basketball, hockey, soccer, whatever it might be, for decades, for generations, baseball trying to lure those players to them, Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or whomever it might be, Kyler Murray, a very famous example, really great multi-sport athletes who in the end chose, in this case, the NFL. Well, so here we are, and it's not just the players. If it's the idea people, if it's the executors, if it's the people who can help grow the game, the really brilliant minds or whomever it might be, the people with the energy who the industry is losing, I mean, that hurts in ways that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, the brain drain is definitely a real thing. It just, as I was looking in my contact lists and LinkedIn the other day, it dawned on me that people that had gotten to know through minor league baseball, they've all left. They're working for the G League. They're working running venues, arenas, things like that. And, these are the people who used to be kind of the backbone of minor league baseball operations. And losing them, losing an institutional memory, which is going to get worse when St. Pete ultimately closes as well. It's not a good thing, and there are ripple effects of that. I know it's gonna affect recruiting into the industry, which is gone right now because there's no winter meetings and no tired looking kids wandering around the job fair looking for leads. It's also going to affect ownership ranks because a lot of these changes make it a whole lot less fun to be a minor league baseball owner. I don't think the facility thing's really affected that. I think it's more the potential financial issues and who you answer to and who you deal with. It's really going to make some who I consider really solid owners saying, I don't need this. No one goes into minor league baseball ownership to make a ton of money. There's better ways to invest your money. Let's put it that way. They do it because they love the game, love the crowds, love the atmosphere. When you take away the atmosphere and the operating environment, and all of a sudden it's like, God, if I'm slogging it out for a return on my investment, I might as well slog it out in an industry where I can get a whole lot better return on my investment.
Even if they love it, you knew in the 90s and the early part of the 2000s to the mid 2000s, minor league baseball was hot. You know, if you're playing the stock market, you know if it's a bull market or a bear market. You know if you're, let's say, if a housing market is a buyer's market or a seller's market. And if you're looking at minor league baseball right now, I guess your hope has to be that when fans are allowed to come back to the stadiums, that they'll want to come back so much that they'll pack to the capacity that you're allowed. That's got to be what you're hanging your hat on.
Yeah, a lot. I think everyone's expecting losses this coming year as well. It's just the extent of the losses and how many fans you are allowed to service and make happy again. The better owners know this. They've been doing a lot of community outreach. They've been keeping people on staff and not shutting down. Past this year, it'll be interesting to see how everything rebounds, though, in terms of financial propositions.
So there's a lot going on. And now we don't have the Major League Baseball season to distract us. So we really can keep our attention on all of this and everything as the news, whether it slowly slips out or seeps out or breaks out in the coming days and weeks to come, especially when people go, I want to turn my attention away from politics. Let's see what's going on in baseball. But before we get too much into the offseason, Kevin, we just had the World Series. World Series is over. How do you look back upon this Major League Baseball season?
I am, I don't know whether this is a minority opinion or not, but I think it was as successful as it could be under the circumstances. I think that after dealing with early COVID challenges, Major League Baseball clamped down, got players to take it seriously. You had a few COVID outbreaks among individuals, but nothing that shut down action for periods of time. I thought the level of play was pretty good at the end of the season. I thought there were a lot of really good storylines in the playoffs. I was not unhappy to see the Dodgers win because I think there's a whole bunch of players there who deserve that championship ring who might not have gotten because of extenuating circumstances in the past. I thought Tampa did a good job in playing its game, and I think that bodes well for baseball there in the future. But overall, I thought they did pretty well considering, and we're seeing now that they did it a whole lot better than the NCAA is doing. The local University of Wisconsin Badgers just canceled another game because of a COVID outbreak. So, overall, I think they did a good job. And well, what's your view, Jesse? I'm kind of eager to hear this.
You can't really bubble up college campuses the way that you can bubble up a professional sports franchise. So all of the different leagues that got through things without outbreaks. One thing that I took away from this baseball season is I love seeing great baseball players on that national stage. I loved being able to see players emerge like a Fernando Tatis. I love being able to see Mookie Betts show everyone just how good he is, or get to see Walker Buehler showcase how good he is, or Randy Arozarena breaking out for the Tampa Bay Rays. I enjoyed every step along the line that I could watch good quality baseball. I did not like how Game 6 ended in terms of the COVID-19 with Justin Turner. I'll get to that in a second. But I loved that in the World Series, I got to see a straight steal of home attempt that was thwarted by outstanding execution. I love that we got to see terrible execution leading to a wild Game 4 win for the Tampa Bay Rays. That game from start to finish was glorious. I loved it. I did not enjoy in the World Series and throughout the playoffs bullpen games. That was my least favorite thing. I despised seeing, and forget setting aside Blake Snell and whether he should have been pulled from the game or not. I don't like seeing starting pitchers pulled from the game in the first inning or the second inning, which, if you look back in baseball history, that was done decades and decades ago with teams trying to grab the advantage and pulling a starter in the World Series, no less, after two batters. But I don't have to like it. So, bullpen games aside, I love seeing great players playing baseball at a high degree of excellence. And I felt that the Dodgers were the best team, and I liked seeing them crowned. Justin Turner makes me uncomfortable because I don't understand still how he could have an inconclusive test or whatever it was and then be allowed to play. And then them actually holding the game. If a player has an inconclusive test, you've got to suspend the game until everything gets more conclusive. So I think that marred Game 6 for me.
Yeah, and that decision was solely about television. That's a TV decision because the time's already been set aside. In the regular season, I think they might have put off the game in a day or two. You saw that happen. But, when you're a slave to TV, you got to do what your master tells you to do.
It sends a message that COVID-19 is not that bad when you allow a player to play and he tests positive and you go, okay, pull him out midway through the game and continue the game. And now the game ends and his team wins the championship and he comes right back out there. And then the quotes from his teammates and his manager and the Dodgers execs and everyone was basically, he means so much to us and we got to have him out here. And let's put him right beside Dave Roberts for the team photograph. And then Major League Baseball releases the statement the following day about how this was all Justin Turner going rogue. And it just, it changed the feeling of a world championship moment. And it stained it. And I hated that fact. This is not how this should be. And Major League Baseball should own this completely, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was that the Turner move was made solely in the context of Dodger fans and upcoming free agent, and that was they wanted to make Justin Turner very happy and their fans very happy, and the heck with the consequences.
Yeah, which it's tough for me to see, still reading about the rate of positivity with coronavirus and seeing how many people are dying day after day after day.
Right.
It sends a message that, I mean, it's a disease, it's a pandemic, but is it more important than this? No, it's not more important than this.
No.
When in fact, public health is absolutely more important than this. And it's the reason why there was no minor league baseball season, why Major League Baseball season was shortened, and why all of the different postseason sites were bubbled in order to prevent this, which I come back to that too. I know that you've said that you do not think that we will see postseason neutral sites in the future. I continue to think somewhere in the back of my mind that there are people at the very top who love the idea of, akin to the Super Bowl, playing postseason big games at neutral sites.
And Manfred hinted at it, which would make me sad because that's the ultimate reward to a longtime fan is if they finally make it to the World Series, they'll have a shot at attending. It'll be an expensive shot, but it'll be a shot. And you make it a neutral site, it takes away a lot of the magic of the event. It says the event is bigger than the teams in it, which is quite honestly, that's a Super Bowl right now. Super Bowls aren't planned for specific teams or to stress specific fan bases. Super Bowl activities exist outside of the football field to a great extent, and it's a big sponsor fest.
It's so interesting to me, and I'm going to see how well I do in vocalizing this. What you said in terms of TV was the reason that the game was played, and here's the reason that we would move it to a neutral site. That the industries that have leaned in to taking care of their fans and taking care of the people who create the industry, it's not like they don't make massive amounts of money. It's not like Marvel, in putting together its cinematic universe and making sure that its fans are happy, has not made tons of money in this. I just do not see how baseball, in leaning away from its fans, if baseball actually leaned into its fans and said, what do the fans want? What do the players want? Let's, especially once COVID is behind us, let's lean into this. I do not see how that does not make them more money.
I think there's a few bad models out there that they're looking at when they talk about a neutral site World Series. I think it's no secret that there's a little envy in Major League Baseball offices about the College World Series, which is an event unto itself. And you'd have to then, if you want to make it a neutral site event, you'd have to build a ballpark for it. You can't have it at Dodger Stadium or Globe Life. You can't have it in a place where a team could possibly get home field advantage out of it. You'd have to totally overhaul how you handle it. And, maybe that's worth discussing when you talk about a neutral site World Series. But with climate change, where do you put it? And, Major League Baseball is not going to pay for it. So it raises a whole bunch of issues, but it just goes back to the fact that you're still telling local fans that they are shut out of the process. I went to the '87 World Series, and growing up a Twins fan, it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. Even though the dome was so loud, and I was in a corner past the left field foul pole, and the views were crap. Man, I was still there though. And I would not want that experience to be denied to fans of the future. So if that means the Rays holding a World Series game or 2 or 3 or 4 at Tropicana, so be it.
The messages that are being sent, and you can correct me if I'm getting any of these wrong. We would like fewer cities in the United States to host a baseball team. If there's a superstar player on, let's say, the Boston Red Sox, it's better for them to save money than to have one of the best players in the game. It's better for us to black out different media markets so you can't watch the game. It's better to take baseball away, or to have fewer people with the opportunity to play baseball, with fewer rounds in the draft. It's better to have fewer idea people, great executors, great industry people who are involved in the game. All these different things are narrowing how great baseball could be.
Yes. And while that's certainly a trend in our society to narrowcast stuff, it's sad to see baseball becoming a niche sport. And that's what it's becoming.
Okay. So if you're still with us and you're still watching us and you're like, these guys, and here are their thoughts on all of this. Yeah, I greatly enjoyed parts of the World Series because I love baseball for the baseball. I thought it was great. Kevin, I'm going to be locked in with every single baseball news in addition to all the off-baseball news. And I've got my baseball thesaurus term for this chat if you would like to hear it.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so we've got our baseball thesaurus right here. This is dedicated to Blake Snell. And we know there's the analytics conversation, which is a totally different conversation.
That's a whole different...
But
analytics versus trends, let's put it that way.
But if I said to you Captain Hook, who does that make you think?
Oh, what's his name? Dick Williams. That's who I'm thinking of right away. But there were a few other managers who were good at the hook.
I think of Sparky Anderson.
I was going to say Sparky Anderson is the other one.
Captain Hook is the manager who yanks his pitcher out of the game. It's showtime at the Apollo with the big hook to yank somebody off the stage. It's one of my favorite terms. A pitcher gets the hook. Blake Snell, whether you liked it or you didn't, he got the hook. Whenever a pitcher gets pulled, he gets the hook. And it goes right back to that vaudeville stage, the theater where you just take that hook and yank him right off into the wings.
After it happened, someone in the Twin Cities media was smart enough to ask Jack Morris what he thought about it. And man, it sounded like Jack Morris was his head was literally exploding with, it's like, I did 10 innings on my own, damn it. And here's Blake, poor, and I felt sorry for him because I know the numbers were actually kind of compelling with an early exit, but man, it's the World Series. You expect your guys to gut it out.
There's the David Halberstam book about the 1964 World Series, Cardinals and Yankees. In Game 7, the Cardinals enter the 9th inning, I believe, with a 4-run lead. And Bob Gibson is out there trying to finish it. And he gets an out and he gives up a home run. And he gets an out and he gives up a home run. But he gets that final out. And he had nothing at the end, but they wanted to. Johnny Keane wanted to finish with Gibby on the mound. That whole ethos of, does the manager pull the pitcher too early? Does he wait? You remember when Pedro Martinez was left in the game a little bit too long? That it's such a great bit of baseball lore. Does the manager get the hook ready, or does he stick with his guy?
Because he's on national TV live. I mean, if he makes the wrong decision, he's going to be just roasted. So it's not an easy decision, and that's why managing it has been and probably should be more of an instinctual thing than the statistician people would lead you to believe. I mean, the stats clearly, Snell runs out of gas. He doesn't perform very well after this point in the game. But, you go back to, I go back to Morris and Tom Kelly. They had a very short conversation about coming back out in the 10th inning, apparently. I think Kelly basically said, "Are you okay?" And Morris said, "Yes." And that was the decision.
But the process-oriented discussion and conclusion is inside the team and the brass and the analytics, the players, the managers, the coaches. Everybody else gets to be results-oriented. You could make the absolute wrong decision, and I'll give you an example. The team that I worked with in 2008, the Windy City Thunderbolts, we installed an acting manager midway through the year. I loved him. Great players manager. His in-game decisions, you could question them, but they worked. And so the relief pitching decisions, or when he went to guys, when he didn't go to guys, in the thick of the moment, I'd be thinking, what are we doing? And they worked and we won the championship. And then you could find managers who do everything that in the moment you go, oh, this is the right move. This is the right move. That's the right move. But if it doesn't work, then here comes the criticism. And there's that process-oriented decision-making versus results-oriented, where we get to sit back and say, it's all about wins and losses. It's all about winning the championship. That's all that matters. And yet they can't see the results in advance, so they just have to do what they feel gives them the best probability of succeeding.
So do you think baseball's kind of moving away from the stats stuff right now, given that the Astros laid off some stats people?
I think that there's a percentage of teams that are moving harder toward it than ever. And I will give you that curve because I think that's exactly what it is. There's a team on the left, there's teams to the left that are doing things old school. And there are teams to the right that are doing everything analytics. And then there's everybody in between. The Toronto Blue Jays, my organization I'm affiliated with, are highly analytical. But I bet that there are teams that are highly the exact opposite. So the teams that win the World Series each year, we all try to take lessons from them. But the Dodgers won the World Series this year for a different reason than the Washington Nationals won it, who won it differently than the Red Sox, who won it differently than the Astros, and right down. Every year, a new team can win it for different reasons because different things work in baseball.
Right. Although it's still kind of a copycat sport. So if Tony La Russa has a good year next year, watch for, a whole bunch of 75-year-old managers to come crawling out of the woodwork. Maybe Jack McKeon they could bring back yet again as an 80-something-year-old manager.
Well, it's a copycat sport, but only to a certain extent. I think about, let's propose a 12-team league. And let's say there's one team going hard after its own way. They're Mavericks. If they succeed, I could see, what do you think, 5, 6 teams doing exactly what that team was doing or trying to copy it. But then among the rest, there's another team which is going hard after its own way. And if they succeed the next year, here come 5 or 6 other teams copying them. So it's people rushing to be on the side that they think is the smartest.
Yeah, and I think we should distinguish here between player evaluation analytics versus game day in-game analytics, and they're really two very different things. You see a lot of teams like your Toronto team doing a lot of work on the analytical side on the player evaluation and the player training. It gets to be less so during the actual game. And there's a whole bunch of teams like that. And we saw in Tampa the downfall of trying to do anything analytical in the process of the game.
And not only that, because baseball is so grinding, you have to come up with good quality depth. And the Rays did. The Rays came up with a lineup that they could continually shuffle players in and out and came up with a really deep bullpen. However, over the course of day after day after day. And this postseason this year was particularly grinding, that by the end, you were not going to be as effective as you were by the start. So on paper, this player is going to be my most effective guy, but because he's a human being, he might be tired. His arm might be a little bit sore. He might not have the juice. He might have doubts in his mind. You don't know where his mental processes are. All of those different things that take a toll on a person leave you with human beings at the very end. Whereas if you're going entirely on math, what you really want to get down to, what sports seeks constantly, is muscle memory. Is you want that player, like a Steph Curry, whomever it is, to take that free throw or take that three-pointer, and their body knows what to do, their brain can't get in the way. Same thing, the pitcher on the mound, body knows what to do, brain can't get in the way. But by the end, there's got to be some brain because the body just doesn't have it anymore.
And there's such a long history of players who are fairly, I don't want to say mediocre, but sort of journeymen in the regular season and then just amazing everyone in the postseason. I mean, this is an old example, but man, Gene Tennis was not exactly a humongo player until the playoffs and the World Series. And all of a sudden he's a hero and then he's rich. And he's not the only one.
No, Marco Scutaro. We can go right on down. There are players who excelled in this year's postseason that we'll see what Randy Arozarena has as his career ahead of him.
He's already got these endorsements. I've gotten email pitches for these endorsements he's got coming down the pike. And, it's just, I hope he enjoys it. I really do.
It's a fascinating thing to have the world as your oyster, even if it's a very strange looking world as is currently. But hey, for all the players who get to be back with their families, here's to them. So there's their baseball lingo for our very last Ballpark Digest Broadcaster Chat. The Hook and Captain Hook for that manager who yanks his pitcher early. I like analytics to a certain extent, and then after that I don't like them because I'm an underthinker. I boil it down to this. It's the pitcher's job to get the batter out. It's the batter's job to not get out. It's the batter's job, if there's a teammate on base, to advance them, maybe to get yourself on, and maybe to knock them in. It's your job to help your team score runs. It's the pitcher's job to limit the runs. If the ball is put in play, it's the fielder's job to turn that into an out. So I look at all of that and I say there's a lot of other thinking that can get in the way if you don't use it right.
Right. And the role of the stats, presumably in this whole thing, goes way back at the beginning to tell the pitcher, here's what you do to get people out. It may actually be a little counterintuitive, but here's what you do, here's what you need to do, and here's what you should do. And then the players still have to play.
At its simplest, if I know that you, Kevin, are susceptible to a breaking ball down and away, that I can learn that from the analytics, I can learn that from the scouting report, whatever it might be, it helps me get you out. If you know that me as the pitcher, that when the count gets to 2 strikes, that my favorite thing to do is run a 2-seam fastball back to the inside corner, that helps you out. It's Kirk Gibson remembering the Mel Didier scouting report on Dennis Eckersley, that on 3-2, watch for the backdoor slider. All these different things. I love asking players, what do you try to take away from all of these sheets of data that are put in front of you? And I remember Bo Bichette saying, if the pitcher's got runners on base, what pitches does he trust the most? That's what I want to know, because chances are I'm coming up in a crucial spot and the pitcher's going to reach for his best pitch. I need to be ready for it. Each player, it's different, but I like hearing about the preparation. And then after that, it comes down to execution.
Yeah, absolutely.
Baseball. I love talking baseball. Well, Kevin, as we wrap things up, my football thesaurus term, just because I love it so much and to go in an entirely different direction, what do you think about a gadget play?
Is that one of those plays where someone you don't expect ends up being the carrier, or there's some sort of, it's not a gimmick play?
It is.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Think about a gadget being an innovation, an invention. A gadget play is a trick play. There are other names for it. It's a dipsy-do. It's a gimmickry. It's a hipper-dipper. It's hocus-pocus. It's razzle-dazzle. It's trickeration. And there's so much good stuff, isn't there? There's the flea flicker. There's the fumble rooski. There's the double reverse. There's There are so many great names over the years, and I love them all.
Statue of Liberty. I love that term. I don't necessarily care much about the play, but man, the term is the best.
You stand there like the Statue of Liberty, the quarterback, and as if you're about to throw the pass, and with your other hand, your offhand, it's the handoff to the running back, and hopefully nobody sees that you've given the ball, and now he's streaking. I think about Boise State beating Oklahoma with the Statue of Liberty.
Right. Actually, you see those plays used a little less than you used to, and I don't know whether because defenses are better or that offenses have gotten so sophisticated that every play is a misdirection play of some sort.
There's a lot of misdirection. I also think that offenses are working so much on getting their things right. So a coach is not going to install a gadget play unless he's going, all right, I like how we're looking with everything else. Now let's have some fun. It's kind of a reward, a way to say, hey, we're going into this big game, or we need a shot on the arm. They're the favorites, or this is our big rival. Let's just install this. Something that you put in at the end of practice.
Right. Wide receivers throwing downfield passes, that sort of thing.
We had that with the Giants against the Bucks. The Giants know that the Bucks are the massive favorite. Very first drive, Golden Tate takes to the air.
Yeah. Would have liked to see that at every game at some point.
It's fun. As a broadcaster, it's hard. It's really hard because a challenge for a broadcaster is so much of the time you're going based upon what you think is going to happen. And you have to worry about not taking things for granted. There's a classic call by John Sterling of the Yankees about a ground ball hit to third, and he had A-Rod picking it up, throwing to first base. Because he had the muscle memory. This is what happens on a ground ball hit to third. But A-Rod botched it. So now he's got to throw going to first base, and the ball is through A-Rod's legs, and it's all a big mess. A broadcaster can put their mouth into automatic. And on a gadget play, you get in big time trouble if you put your mouth into automatic.
Absolutely.
Kevin, thank you for your time. Thank you for these chats every single week.
And we'll still be around. We'll be doing more videos. And in fact, tomorrow you can watch for a giveaway of one of Jesse's books. There'll be some instructions on how to sign up with social media to become eligible. And we're going to be doing a book giveaway every Wednesday for November and early December. So watch out. You may see me and Jesse come back with some chats with, talked about one with Mark McCarter about the Southern League. They can reminisce about their Southern League days. Mark's a great storyteller. So I would encourage you all to keep watching Ballpark Digest for invites to that. And if anything, I'll probably be doing more video in the next month and a half than this weekly chat. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Me too, Kevin. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
And
Jesse.
also, thank you for sharing all the latest information on what has become the big story in baseball.
It's going to be a lot of sadness, a lot of tears. And we didn't even address the big elephant in the room, which is who's not going to make it. And those decisions haven't been made. Once they are, it's just going to be lots of tearing out of hair and wailing.
And on that
note,
for Kevin Reichard, I'm Jesse Goldberg-Strassler. Check out ballparkdigest.com, subscribe to the newsletter, and thank you for your time.